Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new season of Business Class. After interviewing a series of entrepreneurs and founders of companies, big, small, and medium size across different industries, one of the things that I figured out is that no matter what industry you're in, no matter what size you are, no matter which geography you operate in, finally, end of the day, the challenges that businesses face can be slotted in probably 20 or 25 different categories. So I said, let's do this. If these are common problems that the world of business faces, let's try to provide real expert-driven solutions to these challenges. And what best way to do it than to actually talk to a hot startup and see what challenge they're facing, bring in some of the most important experts in this area, and see if we can talk about some real life solutions out here. So I'd like to welcome our guest today, and that is Ashish Rawat, the founder of OgaFit. Welcome, Ashish.
Thanks for having me.
So OgaFit, Ashish, is really a company that in some sense might have seen its golden days in a pandemic era, in a what we call a COVID world, where you've launched something which I personally find very exciting. The notion of being at home, but still being able to work out using some of the latest technologies such as motion tracking, AR, VR, working with some of the best trainers across the world in solo or in teams. All of this sounds very exciting. So tell us a little bit about how this idea evolved. And I was reading up your profile, and you have a past background in gaming. And how did you think of doing something? Fitness is a serious thing, right? It's not a game. Ask me, I've been struggling with fitness for a long time. In fact, I'd rather trade a workout and go and sit on a couch and play a video game on my Xbox than actually sweat it out. So from gaming to fitness and everything in between, how was OgaFit born?
Great. Thanks, Shantanu, for that. I think that's the notion we are trying to change, where fitness does not need to be all serious. You can have a lot of fun as well when you're, working out. So personally, I have been a gamer and a game developer. So started developing maps and mods for different types of games like Quake, and then later on represented India as well in the FIFA, world. So I've always been inspired to make engaging experiences, because that's what games are for, right? They are one of the most engaging mediums out there, even more than films, if I may say so. So the whole idea started from when I was working in a startup, again, crazy work hours, and was quite out of shape because did not really have a lot of time to focus on myself. So I think I was about 10, 15 kilos heavier than what you see right now. And that's the last slide of my pitch deck. Before, after, see my product actually works. But jokes aside, it was extremely difficult to maintain a regular workout routine, because I, as a person, loved experiencing new things, loved experiencing engaging things, and unfortunately gyms did not provide me that. Gyms itself are quite equipment only centers, where you go in, you wear your headphones, you run on the treadmill, you lift some weights, and then you're out of there, right? Did not really appeal to me much, because wasn't motivated enough to go to the gym. So I started going to a local CrossFit box. They were like-minded people, and it was led by these highly energetic millennial trainers, right, who would push you, and who knew the exact things to say. So like, hey, come on, I can do better than this, right? So that experience I absolutely loved, but unfortunately these studios were telling me, hey, we have classes at 8 p.m, and so you have to come in at that point of time. Didn't really work out for me, especially with an erratic work schedule. So I started looking at a lot of digital solutions, and the best thing available was a normal YouTube workout, right? Started working out, no sense of engagement there, because again, it's just a video, so the video cannot see or know what you're doing. And the experience that I was getting at a boutique studio, the CrossFit box, I was not getting anywhere close to that in my actual home. So I had worked with computer vision, AR, and VR technologies, so I knew a much better solution could exist. And therein started the journey of trying to make fitness fun and accessible for everyone.
So, Ashish, that sounds really fascinating. But tell me, do all smart people have the same idea at the same time? Because after the pandemic, we've seen such an interest in at home fitness. So, I see a whole bunch of different products essentially talking a similar language. For example, I've seen products from CureFit, and then Apple announced their own fitness app, and then there is Peloton, and there is whole bunch of people trying to solve this problem that if you're boxed up in your home, how can you still get a decent and engaging workout? So what makes Oga Fit stand out from everybody else now or in the future?
Sure. So what differentiates us is definitely the whole engagement aspect. Because if you look at the market as a whole, people are focusing on creating amazing content, while we are trying to focus on the content and, more importantly, the delivery of the said content, right? Because how you experience content, because in for most fitness platforms out there, they're general content consumption, where you view something, you consume it. For us, it's not about just consumption, it's about actually participating and being engaged. So you have enough motivation, enough engagement to have a healthy workout habit. And as you very rightly pointed out with the market as well, I've been at it for a few years. Definitely, a lot of new players have come out since the lockdown started, and at-home fitness market itself has been growing rapidly. But definitely, this whole lockdown situation has accelerated the market by a few years at least. So again, a stats MindBody, one of the largest uh, fitness aggregators, had conducted this survey. So before the pandemic, 13% of people were tuning into virtual classes on their platform. That number increased to 91% later on. So definitely, there has been a huge surge of people wanting to try digital experience, not because of an option, but because of the necessity as well to maintain a healthy workout routine. And and they are seeing that having the ability to work out anytime, anywhere is definitely helpful. You don't need to get stuck in traffic on the way to the gym. You don't need to travel as much, and you can work out anytime you need. So there's people are definitely seeing the use cases of it. And but as you said, the tricky challenge is to get the studio experience onto the digital platform, which is what we are working really hard towards.
Great. In fact, I'm looking forward now after this to actually trying out your solution myself. So there was a version of me that was before the pandemic, and then after, because sitting at home and eating. Now I'm looking at before, after, then going back to where I was before, uh, without actually having to step out. But so we'll see where that goes. So Ashish, while we completely understand that the pandemic has made the interest in at-home fitness go through the roof, but what has it done for you as an entrepreneur, for your team, for your company? Have you faced any special challenges? Because all of a sudden, all of you were also working from home, not simply working out from home, but also working from home.
Definitely, I think that has been a great challenge. Before the pandemic hit, we still had members. We had team members working from Russia, Ukraine, and China, right? So we had full-time team members on board. But the problem happens if there is a very clear vision that is set that this is what you have to accomplish. Then it's quite easy. But one of the challenges that happened is the ideation phase, or where the whole team comes together and puts out some wacky ideas, right? Hey, this is what I think we should do. It was very difficult for the first couple of months to get that sort of uh, thought process, or that or every single person in that room with the same mindset, right? Because if you're in different rooms, if you're in different places, it's quite difficult to pump up the energy, let's say, as you would, right, in a virtual environment. So that has been a challenge. And the other biggest challenge has been, so we hired 3 new people a week before the lockdown started. So onboarding new people and helping them come in terms with, okay, this is how we function, this is how our culture is, that was quite difficult, right? So I still haven't met three of my team members who joined back in March, and it's almost going to be a year in 3 months. So that was a challenge. But then again, keeping teams together. So we used to play football after work, and that changed into Scribble or one of those drawing games or Pictionaries, right, to kind of keep the team engaged. And yeah, so that there have been challenges on that front.
So, have you figured it out, Ankur, or do you still think that this entire notion of work from home and work productively from home and try to work from home as well as you were working in an office earlier, it's kind of a similar situation to Oga Fit, right? Where you're trying to replicate a workout scenario that happened in a studio, but you want to bring that same energy into the home. And now here is a situation where you're also working from home and you want to bring the same energy that you guys had in office, but now you want to replicate that in a home scenario, isn't it?
Oh, exactly. So I guess we are living up to our vision every day, but in a different context a bit. But it has been, quite a learning experience as well. Again, we all started to use our product a lot more as well, as to kind of see, right, how would people kind of react to it. So that has become our primary driver for sure.
So, this would be a great time to for us to bring our expert onto the show. Our expert today is Ankur Mittal. He's the co-founder of Inflection Point Ventures. Let's wait for him to join us. Hi, Ankur.
Hi, how are you? Hi, Shantanu.
Hi.
Hi, Ashish.
Hey, Ankur,
An-
hi.
Ankur, you're an experienced angel investor, and I believe you've made like 20 plus investments over the last 5 years. So one of the first questions that I want to throw at you is that all these startups typically had sort of very cool offices, and they tried to create a make a beautiful setting where people would play pool, or they would have a nice cafeteria, and a lot of time, energy, and probably angel investors' money also went in creating these cool spaces. But all these spaces are no use right now, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So and people like Ashish are now grappling with a completely different challenge because everybody is staring at their screens right now. So as an investor who's looked at different startups in different geographies, different stages of evolution, how do you see this challenge of being able to work from home but still make it productive enough to justify the investor's money?
Shantanu, very interesting question. When the startups with the funding were creating those school offices, I think what they were trying to do was creating an environment where the employees do not feel the need to go back home and just keep on working. Create a home away from home, and it had its merit because a lot of these startups, they are on high growth. Um, and so therefore the working hours can be demanding, and so whatever you can do to make it convenient and enjoyable for the employees to work there, so it had its merit. And so if investors money was going there, it was, to be honest, money well spent, because it was leading to the desired outputs. But things have changed now. We don't know how long the things will stay the same. I hope that we go back to offices. That still doesn't change the value proposition for businesses like Oga. But the unique challenge working from home that has happened is, I was hearing what you were talking to Ashish, prior to me coming on live. But you raised a very important point. What happens is that when you're going to work, you have certain fixed boundaries. This is work. Then you leave the work, or in the morning while going to work, you go to the gym, or your office has a gym. So you take a break during lunch hours, after office, pre-office. You go, you work out, you come back. There are people around you who are all talking about workouts. They're thinking, talking about how to, what routines they have, stuff like that. Now all of that is gone. You are on calls all the time. You're in work mode all the time. That boundaries, you're not leaving home, so those boundaries have fizzled out. And that is where products like Oga, who are bringing a fun way to work out, they are kind of changing the environment right now. What employees can do is, and what what these not just the startups but the corporates can do is, and we at IPV, considering we have a very strong CXO network, we have connected Ashish to some of the corporates as well, to develop a employee rejuvenation, employee fit program, where the team members can come together and participate in an exercise challenge or a dance challenge on Oga Fit platform. It can bring some fun element back to work. It can, so you can create that space that you were, that you had at workplace, you can create that at home also. You're not physically together, but you can do challenges together. And I think that that by itself is a very strong proposition that OgaFit is offering.
So, Ankur, that's a great point that you've made, that the founders now have to essentially invest more of their time and energy to ensuring that the energy level of all the employees are maintained. And one way of doing that is to do fun games virtually, is to connect and do a whole bunch of things. And probably OgaFit solution can also try to solve this problem. But if we
Absolutely.
don't look at this as a challenge, we look at this actually as an opportunity.
Yeah.
That all of a sudden, since the whole world has been working from home, maybe this has unleashed some other opportunities, apart of course from saving on office rent. You leave that aside, but now people from across the world can seamlessly work together without having this caste divide, that there are some people working remotely but other people are going to the school office. Now everybody is the same, everybody is
Yes.
working from home. So Ankur, tell me, has it changed the dynamic with your teams which were there in Ukraine or Russia or wherever else, and the people who are based out of here, where your head
You
office is
know,
located?
what is very interesting, Shantanu, that's a very interesting question. What has happened is this will recreate, the outsourcing industry, and I'm using that word very casually. Basically, the fact what people have realized in these 8 months is that the work can actually be done remotely. And the beneficiaries of this will be countries like India, where yes, our workforce has become expensive, but it's still much more economical compared to the Western worlds. But now, instead of running some basic services, we can run some more advanced services, and that is where I expect a lot of innovations to happen, and that is where a lot of software production can happen, which can help you do even high quality, high analytical work remotely. And when you're working from home, it doesn't matter whether your home is in London or whether your home is in Delhi, because you're not interacting with that person physically. So this is a huge opportunity. For example, we have invested in another startup called Visha, right? So they are remote executive assistants, and now they have they have now promoted themselves. They're basically creating employment opportunities for let's say housewives and other similar demographics. Now the challenge could earlier be that, okay, somebody like an executive assistant, oh, I need that person in an office who can manage my calendar, who can manage my schedule, who can manage my expenses, but who can manage my travel. But now in last 8 months, everything has been done remotely. That is creating huge opportunity for them. They have seen a huge spike of demand coming in from international companies as well. So I think people will relook at this model. There are talks, like even offices like Infosys and Wipro saying that we may never go back to full office. So that will have an impact on real estate, sure, but it will create new opportunities. And this also goes back into a little bit of culture, what you call the gig economy these days, right? People want flexible working hours, people want flexible pays, and even those businesses will become, a lot of established businesses. Let's say you're doing an accounting process, which is typically considered, you come, you work 9 to 5, you leave and all that stuff, right? But as long as I have a work to do and I have my timelines to meet, whether I work from 9 to 5 or whether I work from you know uh, 5 to 12, it doesn't really matter, right? I'm working at my own pace, I have my deliverables, and because I'm not coming to the office, I can pick and choose my hours. So you will also see a push of gig economy coming in because of this culture. People will go on to variable working hours and variable pay. That will also be economical for the company. So these are all interesting developments that are happening in this space.
Absolutely, Ankur. And while you were talking, one of the really the cornerstones of the industrial revolution and post-industrial revolution has been that we have been trying to measure people on time and effort. Right.
Yes,
That's why you see these biometric things in offices. So you check in and you check out. And even for a lot of ITES kind of industries, it is still
exactly.
time and effort based measurement.
And not
Even when
output measurement.
you build your clients at time and effort, but
Yeah.
when you're sitting at home, the whole concept vanishes into the ether, so to say. So
Yeah.
from an HR perspective, and I really want to also go back to Ashish on this as the founder, how do you sharply now focus on the fact that you're not measuring physical presence anymore, that somebody's sitting in the office till 10 p.m, so he must be working, but how do you focus on from an HR perspective on output, and that requires different kind of tools and also different kind of mindset, isn't it?
Definitely. I think that was always the case, at least for my team. The first thing I talk about is we do not value meaningless metrics like how much time you've spent in the office and how long you were at the desk. So it was always about what type of output you're producing, how you're adding value to the team. I think, but a lot of traditional organizations who have been kind of slow to change as such, right? Because it's a big organization and doing something, changing the line of thinking to a newer way takes time. But this whole COVID thing has shattered that belief, and they're like, "Come on, you have to adapt it and to survive." So definitely, there has been a force changed for the good, I would definitely say, and where people are realizing you don't have to be, at the desk for 9-10 hours a day, whatever. As long as you're putting out solid work, yeah, then everything's good.
So, Ankur, do you
I
see
can,
this?
I can, 1 second, Shantanu, I can tell you, Ashish is always working, so it doesn't matter.
I think founders, it's different. Yeah.
Ashish has no boundaries. And that's probably
I
the
was
case.
actually I was actually sleeping at the office. Just an initial anecdote. Apologies for interrupting, Shantanu.
Yeah.
So what happens is, since we are building a deep learning product, we have huge machines. Now, obviously, I can't post all of these machines. So at the start, we needed one person to turn on the generator if the machines went down. So I stayed like for 2 or 3 months in the office. One person, oh hey, my internet went, sorry, my connection went down. Can you go and turn it on? So that whole thing, I was like the system administrator as well. Yeah. So role never stops at one thing. So that's all the perks of being a founder.
So, Ankur, do you see the evolution of sort of the next range of HR practices where we are looking at outputs and also the reward mechanism? Because if you are,
Absolutely.
so this whole concept of a monthly paycheck which you get would also drastically change, isn't it? So your monthly salary could not be a salary anymore. And therefore, it would be based on what you have delivered to the organization. Then, what
Yes.
implication does it have for you to set up your monthly expenses? Because a lot of our monthly expenses set up as EMIs,
Yes.
irrespective of what we deliver, right? So this has a larger impact on society. What do you say?
There are ways to look at it. You can probably, if you want more money, you can earn more. So now you're not restricted. The way to look at it is you're not restricted by your monthly paycheck. You have the opportunity. You can take up more projects within the company. You can, earlier, let's say arguably it was taking you 4 hours a day to really work, but you had to sit in the office for 8 hours. Now you can actually make all the 8 hours count. So you're going to reward efficiency, you're going to reward output, you're going to reward people who are going to do extra work and not just putting in the face time. And I think these are positive developments. You're giving the freedom back to the people. You're managing the expenses. You're kind of converting, think of it from a company's accounting point of view, you're converting your fixed cost into variable cost. You can increase, decrease. For a company, that could be a huge boon, right? You can have people. Of course, there will be certain roles because of the confidentiality of the kind of information these people share. There will be some kind of a basic pay, if you will, and then there will be some variable element. And that what will probably happen is that the variable pay will increase versus the fixed pay. So the fixed pay is to make sure that your employees are happy and stay within the organization, but there is going to be a variable element which is going to reward high performing employees, and I think that's a positive output. And at the end of the day, it does not have to change that drastically also, Shantanu, and it will not change drastically for many organizations. It is also dependent upon mindset. So I don't think a lot of people will that easily change the mindset that, I know that there are people out there who are still tracking their employees based on whether they are activated on the internal chats or not. So they are still supposed to activate the internal chat when they log in and then when they log off. People who recognize the opportunity, I think will adopt and adapt. People who don't recognize this opportunity will again use technology to force the old methods. And this is where I think HR and the leadership will play a very important role. It's the kind of messaging they drive down to the bottom, where we say that it's not about FaceTime you put in office. It is about your award, it is about the output you produce, and that's how we will reward you. And I think if that messaging is done, we will create a more efficient country.
Sure, Ankur, but one thing is for sure that big changes are in the offing, and as a human race anyway, we don't like change. So unless we are
We are
pushed to the
resistant. Yes.
brink, right? So Ashish, coming back to discussing the other big sort of elephant in the room, that is engagement. And mental health issues have skyrocketed in the pandemic because people are locked up at homes, and no matter how much they do virtually, it is still virtual, and lack of human contact has its own implications on our overall sort of cognitive and emotional health. So how, as a founder, have you been dealing with this thing about employee mental health and wellness as well as engagement?
We work out together. So what that essentially meant. So this came up as a feature, right, where all of us were working out alone. So we rolled out a new feature based on the real problems we were facing, which was the ability to be together. So we created how multiplayer gaming works. We created multiplayer workouts. All of you work out together in the same room. All of you are competing against each other. If it's a dancing, everybody's trying to outdance the other person. So we create a virtual dance party and dance offs. So this whole thing, right? Because if you are active, it's not just there's physical benefits to it. There's mental benefits to it as well, because your energy increases and you're well equipped to take on the challenges that lie ahead. So that has been a great deal of stress buster, or just in terms of general motivation and for the team. Just having the ability to work out together, I think that has worked out well, even from the product sense and also from the team sense.
So doing team activities essentially is what you're saying,
Yes, yes.
right? Whether you're working out, or you could even do the opposite of working out. You could have a drinking session where everybody is drinking beer at the same time, right?
Oh yeah, beer parties are extremely common these days. Yes,
Extremely common these days. So after the beer party, you need to have a workout actually.
we prefer to do it before rather than when you're all gloated up. But yes, I think after would be fine as well.
Okay, that's wonderful. So I think we are running out of time, but I think this was a fascinating discussion, Ankur and Ashish, about some of the big changes that are happening just because we are locked up and work from home. But one last question before we go: do you think when things go back to normal, now that vaccine administration has started in different parts of the world, are things going to be going back to being the way they were? What do you think is the permanent outcome that you are going to get out of this, or what are the learning that you're going to get out of this 9 months of work from home situation?
Sure. So I'll go first, if I may. Definitely a mixture of both. It's not going to be end to end, because we have people who absolutely hate working out from home, and we have people saying, "Hey, man, I'm never coming home. Sorry, I'm never coming to the office." So a mixture, definitely 2 or 3 days, if you want to, work from the office or work from home, and having that sort of flexibility, I think, is the most important outcome to be gathered. Where trust your team members, and just trust them to make the best decision for the company. So that's definitely the hybrid sort of workplace model that we are going to be seeing.
Ankur, what's your take?
There is a saying that anything you do for 21 days becomes a habit. I personally will hate going back into traffic jams, although I'm looking forward to offices to open. But there are advantages of working from home. I think it will be, at least for us. I cannot speak for other people. I think we will maintain some kind of flexibility. At IPV, we have doubled our team strength during the pandemic. From the 30 plus employees, we have gone to 60 plus employees. Like Ashish, I have not met the 30 people we have hired during this pandemic. So it would be great to see each other in the office. Can't wait for office lunches and after lunch walks to start again. But at the same time, there is we saw how we grew during these pandemic months. And we know that work from home is a realistic possibility. So why spend so much money in expanding your office space just because you have created a bigger team? So there are obvious benefits that come from this practice that we have adopted for the last 6 months. So for team morale, team motivation, I think some practices will go back to what they were before. But I think a good, efficient HR and a senior leadership team will be able to pick and choose what is necessary and required to encourage productivity and improve morale amongst the employees versus your cost benefit measures. And a good marriage of the both is what I think will happen as we go back to normal.
Absolutely, Ankur. Certainly agree with you on that point. So thanks so much, Ashish. Thanks so much, Ankur, for sharing your views. And I'm sure this is going to be real solutions to real life problems, and it's going to help a lot of other entrepreneurs like yourself. Thanks again.
Yeah. Thank you, Shantanu.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish.
Thanks for having me.